is going on, everyone's? We here and we back with another episode of
Is My Point Valid?
Yes, indeed. I'm yours truly, Brandon D.
And I am Camille A. Stalker.
And we want to say thank you to everyone who continues to rock with us every time we show up. We appreciate it. If you get any value and you ain't subscribed, make sure you do that. Like, share, tell a friend, share this information. These are the conversations that need to be had. It's all about growth. It's all about Jesus and family. And if those are some of your values, make sure y'all stick around because that's what we all about. We also want to let y'all know that you can check out our memberships. We have 3 levels. You can join the family because trying to extend our family. We appreciate y'all. So if that's what something you want to do, we got 3 levels. We got cousin, we got fam bam, and then we got official family. There's different perks for different levels. Y'all check that out. All links will be in the description. So once again, we appreciate everything y'all do for us. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get into this episode. So topic for today is going to be
Booker T and the W.E.B. Du Bois debate.
Yes. So there has been a long-standing debate about ideologies of these two men. And one was an intellectual who believed in schooling and all of that there. And another one was also an intellectual, but he also believed in hands-on work, trades, building, creating. And we're going to get into a video that kind of goes more in depth about who these two men were, their conflicting ideas. They also have some ideas that are kind of similar.
Right, because they worked together. Like they knew each other.
Yeah.
They started out as friends. And I don't know what happened.
Life happened. But we're going to get into it. So let's get it.
The contemporary habit of reducing serious issues and historic figures to the dimensions of cartoon characters has led to widespread depiction of the rivalry between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington as a clash between a black militant and an Uncle Tom. Despite very real differences between the two men, Du Bois himself refused to make any such characterization of Washington. Du Bois was among the many people around the country, black and white, North and South, who sent congratulations to Booker T. Washington on his historic 1895 speech at the Atlanta Exposition that set forth Washington's philosophy and marked his emergence as a black educator and leader. More than half a century later, even as a self-exiled communist living in Ghana, Du Bois corrected a student who spoke disparagingly of Booker T. Washington. Du Bois and Washington had overlapping goals in education and in society, but different emphases. Both recognized the very low standards of education, skills, behavior, and hygiene among most blacks at the end of the 19th century, just one generation removed from the world of the slave plantation. During this era, Du Bois not only criticized the extravagant spending habits he found among blacks in his study, the Philadelphia Negro. He spoke more generally of the great lack which faces our race in the modern world, lack of energy, which he attributed to indolence, which had now become a kind of social heredity. Even if whites were to lose their racial prejudices overnight, it would make little difference in the economic position of most blacks, according to Du Bois. Although some few would be promoted, some few would get new places as a result of an end of discrimination. Nevertheless, the mass would remain as they are until the younger generation began to try harder as the race lost the omnipresent excuse for failure, prejudice. Du Bois saw many of the blacks as sunk into listless indifference, or shiftlessness, or reckless bravado. In short, Du Bois, like Washington, saw an enormous need for self-improvement among blacks at this juncture in history. The big difference was that Washington made self-improvement the principal and overriding goal of the kind of education he established at the Tuskegee Institute, which he founded. Students at Tuskegee were taught job skills, including the skills that enabled them to build many of the buildings at the institute itself. They were taught deportment, hygiene, and other mundane but important things needed to take control of their own lives and advance in the world. Contrary to legend, Washington never announced equal rights. It is important and right that all privileges of the law be ours, but it is vastly more important that we be prepared for the exercises of these privileges, he said in his historic Atlanta Exposition speech. By linking rights and responsibilities, Washington was able to address both the blacks and the whites in the audience on common ground. And by linking the fates of the two races, he was able to enlist the support of some whites by arguing that blacks would either help lift up the South or help to drag it down. W.E.B. Du Bois likewise said to Southern whites, "If you do not lift them up, they will pull you down." Although the two men said many things that were very similar at the time, their differing emphases were clear as well, beginning with education. Du Bois emphasized academic education for those whom he called the talented tenth of the race, largely people like Du Bois himself, educated and cultured descendants of the antebellum free persons of color, for whom vocational education would have been a step backward. The very phrase talented tenth implicitly acknowledged that this was not what was most needed by most blacks at that time. Although Du Bois acknowledged the necessity and the achievements of vocational education, accomplishments of which it has a right to be proud, he was promoting a very different kind of education for a very different class of people. Moreover, this education and this class of people were intended to spearhead political agitation for civil rights, as exemplified in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which Du Bois helped found. Just as Du Bois acknowledged the need for vocational education for many blacks, so Washington acknowledged the need for academic education for other blacks. He served on the board of trustees for Howard University and Fisk University, whose educational missions were very different from that of Tuskegee Institute, and he used his influence to get financial support for Howard and other black academic institutions such as Talladega College and Atlanta University. He declared, "I would say to the black boy what I would say to the white boy. Get all the mental development that your time and pocketbook will allow of," though he saw most blacks of his time as needing to acquire practical work skills first. Still, he said, "I would not have the standard of mental development lowered one whit, for, with the Negro, as with all races, mental strength is the basis of all progress." Kelly Miller saw the controversy over differences in educational philosophy to be the work of one-eyed enthusiasts rather than of men like Du Bois and Washington, who saw the need for both. Booker T. Washington saw his own primary task as the promotion of progress among the many and not the special culture of the few. He saw his work as an educator in his times as preparatory, as laying a foundation for the masses, but not to confine the whole race to the work for which Tuskegee Institute would immediately prepare its students. After speaking proudly of a Tuskegee graduate whose knowledge of chemistry had increased the acreage yield of sweet potatoes several-fold, he said, "My theory of education for the Negro would not, for example, confine him for all time to farm work, to the production of the best and most sweet potatoes, but that, if he succeeded in this line of industry, he could lay the foundations upon which his children and grandchildren could grow to higher and more important things in life. Even in the present," he said, "we need professional men and women," and he looked forward to a time when there would be more successful black lawyers, congressmen, and music teachers. As regards civil rights, although Booker T. Washington wrote in 1899, "I do not favor the Negro's giving up anything which is fundamental and which has been guaranteed to him by the Constitution of the United States," his general public posture was that he was too busy with the self-improvement of blacks to become involved in political controversies. Yet, when his papers were examined after his death, it became clear that he had privately goaded other blacks to crusade for civil rights, and had even secretly financed legal challenges to the Jim Crow laws in the South. Washington was fully aware that to have done these things publicly would have jeopardized the white financial support on which Tuskegee Institute depended. Nor was this simply a matter of protecting his own interests. He understood the repercussions for others if he made explosive statements in the volatile racial atmosphere of the times. "I could stir up a race war in Alabama in 6 weeks if I chose," he said, "but to do so would wipe out the achievements of decades of labor." Yet he also understood that open challenges to racial discrimination had to be made. As he wrote to Oswald Garrison Villard, one of the founders of the NAACP, There is work to be done which no one placed in my position can do. Although Du Bois could not have known of all the things that Washington was doing secretly, he had an insight into the man himself and knew where his loyalties were. Du Bois said of Washington, he had no faith in white people, not the slightest. Booker T. Washington practiced what a later generation of black militants would only preach, to advance the cause of blacks by all means necessary. A leading black educator of his time, Dean Kelly Miller of Howard University, said of Washington that the advancement of the black race is the chief burden of his soul. Despite differences between Du Bois and Washington, and rivalries between their respective followers, this did not prevent civility between the two men themselves. In Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up from Slavery, he wrote of a meeting arranged by some good ladies in Boston in 1899, where, in addition to an address by myself, Mr. Paul Laurence Dunbar read from his poems, and Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois read an original sketch. In 1903, Du Bois wrote a critical essay about Washington that has since been widely quoted. What has not been so widely known is that Du Bois's aunt chided him for that essay, explaining how his role and constraints were very different from those of Booker T. Washington, and expressing her hope that he would never write about the Tuskegee educator that way again. Decades later, recalling this conversation, Du Bois added, "And I never did."
He didn't. I tried to see what was,
And
because he hurt me when I said, whoa.
oh, Kimosabe.
Like, wow, because I see what Booker T was trying to do. And then, I look at, I don't like W.E.B. Bois, not because of how he felt, but just other things that he did in his life. And so, but when you look
and his
connections, yes. And but when you look at Booker T. Washington and how you read, so I have all three. It's the African American classics. So it's Booker T. Washington, Up from Slavery, W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folk, and Frederick Douglass, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, which is really good. I've read. I'm trying to get through.
Link will be in the description if you want to check that out.
I'm trying to get through The Souls of Black Folks because W.B. is so freaking intellectual. Like his writing is like so poetic and he's trying to teach you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so
extra
boring. But I have to get through it. But with Booker T, you see he came from slavery. W.E.B. Du Bois did not.
Free man.
He was a free man. And so Booker T was like, he wanted to read. And when he saw that he could, and the night he took night school, he had to work in the coal mines, like he was working. And so when he had this opportunity, when they gave him this opportunity to build a school to enhance the Negro people, he took it like, yes, he wanted Black people to read, right? But he also knew that they had come from working. They knew a skill. So he was like, they gave him grief because how Tuskegee was built was by the hands of the students. And these people had went to Howard. Some of them were teachers who had went to Howard and had obtained their teaching degree. Mm-hmm. And so they felt that they were kind of too good to use their hands to build this. And Booker T was like, well, let me show them. I'm going to get out here with them and I'm going to do it because, and you put pride in that, like, right? If you do it, if you can help do the thing to help the person. And then, the person will be like, man, he was out here with us. And so what makes me better than him if he's trying to help? So Booker T did a lot. And W.E.B. Du Bois, he's just focused on, intellect. But the thing is, he, like the video was saying, he said the same. He wanted to apply that there should be thinkers. The
methods were just different.
So that was because I was reading.
The end goal was pretty much the same.
I was reading. I'm like, look at you're in agreement with that. Like, why did you say? And then I feel like I like Booker T more because like he was a founder of this school. Like, W.E.B., what you do?
NAACP.
He was a teacher. Now he did start out
steadily taking people's money.
But right, the NAACP.
But my problem. So I'm in trades. So you can almost imagine who I side with on this. And if you don't, Booker T. I have some, I really feel some type of way about W.E.B. Du Bois and his whole ideology, his whole connection to Margaret Sanger and eugenics. When they say this whole 10%, that's what they mean. They want to annihilate everyone else and only focus on the people that they deem necessary. The problem with intellect is, although it may be hereditary, it's not easily taught. Skills, on the other hand, I can teach you a skill by showing you. And what that does for us is it helps us to create wealth for our families. It was like they were saying about
the sweet potato.
The sweet potato. Mm-hmm. We can grow our own stuff. And all this goes back into Africa, into the annihilating of white people. We don't possess the skills to produce these things, but we want to eliminate the people who do.
And we want to say, well, all children need to know, be in these schools. So I have a gripe with that, right? With boys and going to school or being set down all day trying to learn something.
They're boys.
They're boys. And I believe that every child should know how to read and write and be literate. I do believe that, but I also think that boys should be learning a skill, how maybe a motor, maybe
even like hand-eye coordination, right, yes. Something. And that I don't believe that all children should be in sports in order to go to.
I was just thinking that. I was like, next level, we talk about hand-eye coordination, not bouncing a ball and not throwing a football.
But that sports is used for the discipline, the hand-eye coordination, and things like that.
Yes. But what I'm saying is how tedious your job is to put some pipe together or welding or something like that. That's what I mean. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the hand-eye coordination.
I'm talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Just to get them.
But I think that there should be a level of, hey, get some grease on your hands or get some dirt or, how do you put this back together?
I remember we went through a drive-through at McDonald's. And I handed the guy the money and I brushed up against his hand. I was like, damn, your hand's soft. That boy never did no real work.
That's what I'm saying.
That boy hand was like butter.
Like the boys
go outside and fall. On it. I was like, God, dog, my boy, you need to get out here and do some real work.
So if I could create a school where, girls are learning, and I do, where girls are learning boys can learn how to cook too. But if there is a part where a physical skill where the boys are, touching a car part, knowing how to change a tire, knowing how to change lights and stuff. You see the video
where the girl, it's like 4 boys in a car with a girl. The girl gets out and changes the tire while the boys do TikTok videos dancing.
See, that's a problem.
I'm like, boy, we in trouble.
So if I can, because I will create this school and that it will be a part of it. Let's get your hands dirty. You know how to fix a dishwasher? You know how to fix a refrigerator? Fix that microwave.
How are you going to contribute to society?
That's what it's about. And that's what Booker T was trying to do. It didn't matter how tedious or how non-engaging the job was. Can you do it? Sweeping. There's a story about him. He swept the classroom really well, and that he got through school because he was a hard worker. We need to show our children to be hard workers. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can be a thinker, but there's more. There's more to it because everybody can't be an intellectual.
Straight up. And there's a whole lot harder to teach.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. And like always, it's love, peace, and soul. Like Soul Train, baby. Booker T.